Hi guys, it's Rich from pitlanes.com. Today I've got sort of a race review from the Pit Lanes URD GT World Series on rFactor2. Normally because I throw up my stream, but in this instance the streaming really wasn't working. I was having graphical errors for some reason, OBS related I think. But in practice and qualifying, the rain had been coming down heavily, something like 65% intensity for the whole time, but then at the beginning of qualifying the rain stopped and it became more of a timing thing where the guy who was last over the line would get pole. Luckily for me, that was me, but on the start here, as you can see, Gary Craig got the jump on me. I bogged down a little bit, a bit of wheel spin there. So the track is fully wet, and everyone apart from Luke Ridgway, I think, is on wet tyres, because I'd set the real road multiplier to normal. I didn't expect it to dry up anywhere near as fast as it used to. The field was pretty close. We had 9 in with a new face or two, and if you'd like to join us, feel free to. Details are always on the pitlanes.com website on the forums. I put up a thread every week. The session is passworded, but on a Friday I put the password in that thread. Moving into the second clip, we see the start of Luke Ridgway and Pete. Luke being the second of the red Ferraris here, and Luke had decided to start on slick tyres. I had warned him that it wouldn't dry up, as I said, but he went with it anyway. He said it was handling fine. But no offence, Luke, looking at your onboard mate, it looked a right handful compared to what I was dealing with full wets. But we've got the first sort of incident here. Pete braking somewhat early into the hairpin, and then Luke diving on the brakes, getting twitchy and doing his best to avoid. Did a good job of avoiding there, really. And then just coming round back onto the circuit, I think he did nudge the tyre barrier a touch there. And then what we're seeing here is Luke getting back past Pete on the next lap as Pete makes a mistake, I think, on the exit of the hairpin on traction. And Luke sort of pulls away a bit, obviously still on slicks. Pete, as far as I'm aware, on wet tyres, and I just wanted to show that so that the context for the next clip makes sense, whereby Luke has a moment the next lap in the hairpin, massive oversteer, lack of grip at the rear there, and Pete gets a lot closer and then coming into the tight corner at the end of the straight here, it looks like Pete's gone for a dive bomb, where on review of the replay you can sort of see the lines if you look. He locks up and just doesn't modulate the brake at all and just slams into Luke. Just all tyres locked up really, when he could have done with maybe modulating it a touch on entry there. Then really Luke's luck goes from bad to worse. Clyde Whiting had a moment himself, well, more than a moment, and Luke, somewhat unaware of this situation, just sees a crawling Clyde, I think, and thinks that he is allowing him around the outside, when really Clyde's struggling to control his vehicle. They don't make contact, but then Luke goes off. We can see it from Clyde's angle now, basically coming down into the tight right-hander there, catches a bit of the curb and then just understeers straight off, and in fact loses a wheel as well as most of the front end of his Aston Martin there. Another little spin, and he's not really aware of the fact he's lost his front left wheel. He knows he's taken a big hit, but he wasn't aware he'd lost his wheel. I think he assumed the handling was just terrible because he'd taken that hit, you know. I can't really blame Clyde for this. He's only raced on rFactor2 a couple of times, and I know for a fact he wouldn't do that on purpose to someone. So, and a tip for all you iRacers out there, rFactor2 has this. Yeah, you can't drive through people in the pits, Clyde. This clip's just to show me having a moment in the hairpin, big oversteer moment there, massive lack of traction. Tamas gets alongside me, decides better of it, but then coming up towards the tight right-hander at the end of this section, he takes position, and I don't really defend it all that vigorously. I just decide to allow him the position, because I think we're only about 10 or 15 minutes in at this point. And that allows Karim, I hope I'm saying your name right, Karim, to be really close. In fact, that's one thing I've neglected to do. Karim drops at some point. On the results it says suspension. I don't know if he had a crash or whatever, but I didn't actually get a replay of that, sorry mate. But you were doing well, and thanks for coming in. Hope we can see you again sometime. This clip shows Gary Craig out in the lead, and I knew that by this point I was very tight on fuel, and I was aggressively saving. I'm down there in fourth. I was saving a lot, and I'd filled up the tank as well, but unfortunately I think Gary said he assumed he'd have to pit for tyres, I think, anyway, so he'd only half filled his tank. So about the halfway stage he had to dive into the pits there, unfortunately as well hitting the wrong button for chat, and not engaging his speed limiter in time, so he also incurred a drive-through or a stop-go, I'm not quite sure, but I know he got a penalty there, which was unfortunate. He was on for a good points haul there, and it's a bit of a shame. This clip is just showing really close racing between me and Tamas. At no point was I really intending to make any move on him, because like I've already said, I was aggressively fuel saving at this point. I think my consumption had gone from 3.3 litres down to about 2.7 litres by this point. I was really thinking of the latter stages and hoping that the two guys ahead of me would need to pit much like Gary did, albeit at a much later stage. So I've just put this in here for really just to show off close racing, that it's possible in rFactor2 if you're on a good server. Hint hint. The netcode is absolutely fine, so yeah. And here we have part of my plan coming into fruition, with Tamas saying afterwards he required about 10 litres of fuel to make it to the end. So from the lead, he had been pushing a few laps before this, and I'd hoped this is what it meant, because I dropped back quite considerably, about 7 or 8 seconds fuel saving, realising he was pushing. I had no response if I wanted to make it to the end, but Tamas jumped into the pits for a very quick splash and dash to get him to the end. I think there was only about 5 or 6 minutes remaining at this point, so a bit unfortunate timing for him, but good for me. I'm not going to complain. And finally, I'm going to leave you with the final lap with Arthur, I hope I'm saying that right, in the lead, having just lapped Gary Craig there. Is in the lead here, and I am some seconds behind. You will see me and hear me in the background. I think I'm about 4 or 5 seconds off at this point, and I think he realised he needed to save fuel as well. And to give it some context, around halfway stage of the lap, we got the 1 minute warning that there was 1 minute left of the 60 minutes, and then coming, I think, exiting the final corner, the clock hit 0 and the checkered flag waved. So yeah, I shall leave you with the interesting last lap. And here's the final result. Me taking the victory there by 0.0317 of a second. I was actually aiming to make a move into turn 1 because I thought we had a lap left. I felt I had the pace to beat Arta, but I certainly really wasn't making the move for that final lap. I honestly thought we had another to go just because of when the checker flag flew. It was so close to the line. Tamas taking third there, solid points haul, and also ensures he's our first pitlanes.com URD GT champion. Well done to you. Nils, they're in fourth, in front of Gary Craig. That makes them 2 points separated going into the final round in Fuji. Clyde Whiting there recovering to 6th place after actually losing another wheel at some point in the race, 7 laps down. And Pete also with a lot of issues, finishing down there in 7th. Karim left the race because of a suspension retirement, and also Luke with that big impact after his incident with Clyde, with suspension failure there. So if you're interested in joining us, please feel free, come over to the pitlanes.com forums and just have a look on there, and you should see a weekly thread sticked in the rFactor2 section. And yeah, come along, join us. This next round at Fuji is our final round this season, but we will be starting up a new season very, very soon. So thanks a lot, guys. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I shall see you soon. Cheers.